Episode number 68 of The Grail is here, and I cannot thank you guys enough for taking the journey with me. All the episodes are available on cactusradionetwork.com. You can find The Grail and Let There Be Talk at cactusradionetwork.com. All right, I will tell you this right now. We have a fantastic guest. We have an artist out of Austin, Texas on the show today, Mr. Chris Rogers, a mural painter, an amazing painter, and a great story. Really uplifting story. Even for myself, I always try to send out positive energy, as the late, great Brody Stevens would say. And I try to focus on staying positive, and I know it's tough out there in the doom and gloom world of clickbait and all that shit. But there's people out there that are doing it, that are fucking doing it every day, getting up, taking the grind, and, living the dream. The dream doesn't necessarily mean monetary status or fame or anything like that. It means that you're doing what you love each day. And I constantly try to remind people that. And I need to be reminded of that a lot, because you'll get into that headspace of like, fuck. Anyway, my guest today is a new friend. I went to the unveiling of the late, great Brody Stevens mural, which is located out in Reseda, California. And every day I think about Brody Stevens, all the time, every day. When I'm at the comedy store, when I'm just driving around, when I'm in a Starbucks, I can hear and feel my brother. Brody was that special to everyone in the comedy community. And now we have this amazing mural that is on the side of this great Greek restaurant, the Firehouse, and in between a Starbucks also. Perfect for Brody, who loved Starbucks. And Chris Rogers was asked to paint this. Tommy Godlove has been spearheading this project for over a year, scouting out locations, looking for a spot that would let somebody paint a giant mural of somebody maybe they didn't know. Brody Stevens is a proud 818 lover, the Valley, Reseda. It was a big part of his comedy, always shouting it out, the Valley, 818. And Yoshi, who put this all together with the introduction to Tommy Godlove of the great Chris Rogers out in Austin. And I've seen some of Chris's work while I was out at the Vulcan Gas Company a couple weeks ago. So this whole thing has kind of become full circle. Keeping the memory alive of Brody and the message that he sent out. Positive energy, push and believe, all that stuff's real, man. So it was great to sit down with Chris and talk to him about how he started painting murals and portraits, and all of that stuff is so hard because you want to get it right. You want to capture the person. And there's murals all over Los Angeles. I don't know where you guys live, but there's a lot of murals here that really, I think, help the community, celebrate the community, celebrate artists and athletes and historical figures and people that have done stuff in the communities. It's beautiful to see murals when you're just sitting in a fucking shit show of traffic and you look over and you go, wow, that's amazing art right there. And to do a portrait, a giant mural on the side of a building, it's got to be crazy hard. So it was great to hear Chris on how he goes about this, his process. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I hope you enjoy this episode, number 68 of The Grail. Please leave a review and subscribe. I am also getting ready to go out on a long 6-week tour with Marcus King and Neil Francis. The tour dates are on DeanDelRey.com. Keep the love going, everybody. Let's get into it. Here he is, the great Chris Rogers. All All right, here we are, another episode of The Grail, always featuring your favorite artists and painters and makers and humans out there, great humans. And today is no different. We have a fantastic guest today. Introduce yourself.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Chris Rogers. I'm an artist from Austin, Texas, and I do live art, murals, all kinds of stuff. That's what I do for a living.
It's amazing to see your work in person. And as I wear the Brody Stevens shirt today, which is positive energy, we met a few weeks ago at the unveiling of the Brody Stevens mural. And murals are a big thing in memorializing public figures, historic figures, favorite entertainers, all that. There's a lot of Kobe Bryants around LA and stuff. And it is a interesting story to find out how people get into painting murals and how you got contacted to do the Brody Stevens mural. And most important, murals are really tricky because if they're wrong, it's brutal.
You know, they're really wrong.
I've seen some bad tattoos of, the guy's like, check this out. And you're like, who's that? It's supposed to be, that's Evil Knievel. And you're like, oh, I guess so. So murals are really tricky, man, because
they are.
First of all, you're doing, usually people are doing a mural of a public figure that everybody knows what they look like. You know what I mean? So it's that
pressure's on.
Oh God. Yeah. Let's get into a little bit about your background first. You live out in Texas and you had an interesting story that you were down and out on drugs or alcohol or whatever. And through comedy and podcasts and stuff, you lifted yourself out of the ashes. And now here you are, alive and well and doing great work. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, down and out's putting it mildly. I was in dire straits, man. I was having a hard time for a lot of years, man. And there were, a number of years where I felt like I had nothing. I could fool a lot of people. I still had friends. I still had jobs, and externally I could fool a lot of people, but on the inside I just felt trapped, as most people do in addiction. I tried quitting so many times, always with the same result. And thus, spiritually, I just felt sick, man. And it was at a time where I literally didn't have anything to laugh about. And I came across, Bill Burr, his podcast, and I just happened upon somebody uploaded all these episodes from Opie and Anthony. So I got to see Patrice and Louis C.K. and all those guys from LA and New York, and just, it was the first time there was really I think that was like the onset of podcasting, these long form conversations where people were just cutting it up, man. And they just made me gutturally laugh at a time where, I didn't have anything to laugh about. So it felt like a defibrillator every time I would listen to podcasts. And especially at night when, the thinking gets really loud, that's when I put it on. And, it kept me afloat till I finally got sober. And, even after I got sober, it's the early sobriety is pretty hectic, to say the least. And I would still listen to comedy, man. And it's still just, it connected me to something that was pure, something that was real. And, something that I really appreciate about the craft is that it makes you laugh about things that literally shouldn't be funny. You know what I mean? And that's actually what I found in those rooms of recovery, is people laughing about pretty sordid shit, and it hits you on a visceral level and just gives you that levity, man. And so, the fact that I'm here now collaborating with a lot of the comedians that I've been listening to, it's nothing short of godsend. So it's amazing.
At a young age, were you always an artist? Were you painting and doing like album cover stuff, or were you in bands or anything? What happens? How do you get into the world of art and murals?
Well, Well, painting, I didn't start painting until I was junior in high school, but comic books. I grew up in the 80s and early 90s, so comic books and cartoons, like I was always drawing. That was my thing. And I was actually pretty nervous to start painting. And one of my professors at this prep school I went to in Connecticut, Pomfret School, he made me paint. Like he was going to drop me a letter grade if I didn't do one painting. And so that was the beginning of it for me. And I ended up going to college in upstate New York at Hobart College, and, playing hockey there and soccer there and studying art. And, the one thing they don't teach you in college is how to make money, though, how to get the business going. So I graduated and it was just like 80 G's in debt, and I'm bartending now. So it was like 2.5 years of bartending, waiting tables. So I finally got that start. And the start it wasn't something I was looking for either, man. It was in 2009. I graduated college in 2006, and 2009 is when my mom passed away. And that was the worst thing. That's where my drinking went from heavy to what the fuck. And I was drinking all day, every day, but I still had a number of good friends that were looking out for me. And, I had this, I still have this friend, Johnny Gonzalez, who, he's a musician. He makes beats and everything like that. And he let me stay with him for 6 months. And for rent, he let me pay him in paintings. So during that dark ass time, I was painting every single day. And that's what got me started doing art full time. I grew up in Hilton Head. That's where I was at the time, Hilton Head, South Carolina. Yeah, it's a tiny little island. So it's a resort. That's what you do. You work in a restaurant, you retire, or you go to the beach and get drunk.
Yeah,
and so
golf courses.
Yeah, exactly. So I would just go around to the various resorts, and I'd hook up with some of the musicians there and DJs, and I'd just ask them if I could paint while they did their thing. And that's kind of how I started networking, is painting live with musicians.
Now I have a mural of Bon Scott tattooed on me from the legendary Nico Hurtado, who is one of the great tattooers of our time. And it was interesting to watch him do this tattoo because it basically looked like some kind of paint by numbers type of grid that he put on me, the stencil. And when you looked at it, it just looked like a map, almost like puzzle pieces. And I was like, what the hell is he even looking at there? And when I talked to you about painting the Brody portrait, the mural, you said you basically kind of do it by a grid. And I was thinking, like, how do you learn to do this type of stuff? At first, are you just kind of looking at a photo of somebody and freehanding, like they do at the carnivals and stuff, and they make cartoons of people? Is that how you start?
Yeah, basically. I mean, that's there's technology nowadays with iPads and all this digital art where it can do a lot of that perspective and shading and all that stuff for you. But for me, that's part of the skill, is being able to look at something and use your hand to record what you see and find proportions and find, different gradients and whatnot. So that's 101, drawing 101 in college. And, when you're getting started. So by the time I got to doing large murals, there are grid systems you can use to like kind of break down the perspective and just kind of piece it together. And that's what I did with the Brody mural.
So do you remember, when you first started doing murals and portraits, were they famous people? And do you remember the first one you did? Was it a famous person?
Bob Marley.
Bob Marley.
Yeah.
You big Marley guy?
I was, man. I used to have dreadlocks forever, man. I didn't cut my hair from 1996, my freshman year of high school, until 2013. So I had dreadlocks that were like down to my thighs. I was I wasn't a Rastafarian, but I really appreciated that culture and the music, and definitely Bob Marley to this day. So that was like the first person that I painted, and, it was what I sold. And that's what I did early on, is I, tried to paint what I thought would sell, That's what a lot of artists do early on, before I found my voice and started to develop what I wanted to do,
And were you painting with oil, or when you started out, or what type of platforms were you using?
Uh, I did a little bit of oil, but it takes so long to dry, especially when I'm doing like live art at various venues. It could get on stuff, and it's a pain in the butt. So I really got into acrylic painting. It's water based, it dries quick, and I work pretty quickly, so that lends itself well to painting live. So mainly acrylic and water based paints, but I use it all: spray paint, oils, latex, whatever, water.
So once you get going and you start painting and you're selling some paintings of famous people and stuff, how do you land in Texas? And do you just start, trying to get your name out there and selling art, or what happens there?
Well, I'd say the precursor to that was still back in Hilton Head. There was this there's still this restaurant. It's called The Studio, and it's owned by a husband and wife, Paul and Lenona. And Lenona's a painter, and Paul's a chef. And it's just this small little dining room. And Lenona would have local artists come in and paint while people were dining. And I started doing that right after college, and it was very uncomfortable at first. I wasn't used to painting in front of people, but like I said before, when I started hooking up with different musicians and DJs around the island, like it lent itself well to, if I didn't sell something right on the spot, like people really appreciated seeing a canvas go from blank to something resolved. And, so it was a calling card. And when I moved out here to Austin, Texas, I moved out here because Hilton Head's a small little town. And, I realized even back then when I was still shrinking, like I couldn't fuel my own fire. Like passion is contagious. Like I need to be around. I mean, I don't care if you're churning butter or making candles. Like if you're passionate about that, it's gonna charge me up and make me want to paint. So that's why I moved out here to Austin. I wasn't looking for a major city. I lived in Atlanta for a while, and so I was looking for like a smaller size city that had good music, good art, like a lot of 20, 30, 40 something year olds, just a lively, eclectic city. And one of my best friends from college, Dan Abrams, who played soccer together, he was a captain. He moved out here to Austin, Texas, a couple of years before I did, and he was just always like, "Yo, you got to move out here. You've got to move out here." And it was just all these little birdies. And it was in 2012. I just said, "Fuck it," and I came out here, packed up my grandfather's was a '92 Lincoln Town Car. The thing's a boat, and I had it filled to the brim, and I just drove out, man. And I just knew my buddy Dan and one other person, but I had zero bearings here, man. So when I got here, I would just set up on South Congress, which is that main strip where there's a lot of foot traffic, and I paint right there. I set up my easel, a couple paintings. I'd sell sometimes, but every single time I set up, I'd meet someone, and that's how I got my first mural job. I met somebody who was opening a gallery in East Austin, and they had this blank wall that it wasn't even a paid gig. They were like, "Well, you can paint whatever you want if you want to." And I was like, "Psh, say less." And that mural right there was the calling card, man. That's what it got all started here for me in Austin. That was a decade ago.
Now, when you're painting on South Congress, were you getting any hassle from the police? Did you need permits or anything?
Of course, man. Of course they were hassling, dude. It was such bullshit, man. It's like you're not bothering anybody. You're entertaining everybody, but it's like, do you have a permit? It's like, no. So I moved around, but there's ways around it. So I just moved to the other side of the street. Fuck it. But for the most part, everybody was cool.
And at what point after you do the person's open space there, and did you paint a mural in there, or what did you end up painting?
I painted a mural, and it was it's a big wall. It's 25 feet, over 2 stories tall, and about 75 feet wide. And it's in East Austin. This is before like a lot of the gentrification that went on in East Austin went on. So there was like a lot of black and brown people that had been there for a long time. And so I just wanted to paint something that kind of reflected the culture a little bit. So I did like this mashup with like, Michael Jackson and James Brown and Salvador Dali and, just a bunch of bats, and made it. I mean, if you're familiar with Salvador Dali and his surreal paintings, like there's just a bunch of shit going on. And so that's what I did. And it definitely livened up that part. That block that I did it on too was like where everybody went to like buy crack. So like it wasn't even the best part of town, but it was just this dope wall at this busy intersection, and a lot of people saw it.
Dope wall, literally.
Yeah. Yeah. Straight up, man. I got somebody took I had a Gatorade bottle with some food like sitting right on a table. I sat it down. turn around, and literally when I turned back around, it was gone.
Oh.
And some crackhead was walking across the street with my Gatorade and food. And I'm like, what the fuck? That was like day one of the mural. I was like, this is going to be interesting.
Now, when you're painting outdoor murals, I was asking you about this at the Brody unveiling. You're dealing with a total different animal of weather and the element and the sun and all of that. At what point do you figure out what paints and how to seal it and everything? Are you hitting the internet and finding out, or are you asking people at the art store, or what's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, I would ask around, and I ask a lot more nowadays. I ask if I don't know something. I just ask somebody who might know. But early on, it was just a lot of trial and error and just figuring out as you go. Like I'm still figuring out as I go. Like I have a number of people who reach out or like, yo, can you tell me what to do? I'm just starting out. Like, how do you get into murals? And it's like, I can tell you how, man, but like, there's so much information to like figure out. I mean, how do you tell somebody to start out in stand up? Like, how much did you learn on the job?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's you could sit there and tell people. There's really only a few things that you can tell them. Right. Yeah. Get on stage and repeat. Same thing I think with murals is it's like tattooing or anything. You know, I see tattoo guys when they see some of their first works and they're like, "Whoa, man, that was early on." And these people become some of the greatest tattooers on the planet. And some of the stuff that's going on with the tattoo world now is just mind-boggling.
It's crazy.
It really is. It really is, man. So when you're asking around, you know, you say, hey, I'm going to be painting on this wall and there's going to be some sun or rain. What do I need? And some people tell you like, oh, you got to get some sealers or a coating over it, like a clear coat.
Yeah. I mean, with Google and everything nowadays, you can kind of just look it up. But, you know, like I said, I trial and error. I've done murals and they get baked in the sun and in a month they're completely like washed out and you got to go back in there. So yeah, figuring out how to like preserve your work is high on the list, especially with murals, because it's not only a lot of time, it's a lot of energy, man. You know how it is, but when you're writing or when you're performing, like you're given so much. It's not like, I don't know, man. I can do a lot of things. Like if I was just doing like labor, like digging ditches or washing dishes or something like that, like I can do that shit when I'm tired, man. But when it comes to like creating art, like I got to be rested. I got to, you know, meditate. I got to be in the right mind space as best possible. And, you know, as you were saying before, I just got to get out there and do it. I think that's the biggest thing is just getting out there and just fucking not stopping.
Once you're in Austin for a while, the comedy scene starts to happen during COVID. A lot of people move out there. Joe moves out there and a lot of people from the store, some door guys and everything. And Segura moves out there, Ron White.
Yeah.
And there's kind of this a completely new scene of comedy out of nowhere created by COVID, basically. Well, we can go to Texas and we can still perform. At that point, are you starting to go see comedy because all of a sudden, whoa, all these guys are in town? And do you start to meet the guys and then start painting like comedy murals and stuff? What happens here?
Well, what got me started was again painting with musicians, and so in Austin, I've gotten real familiar with a lot of the venues here. And so I think it was 2016 Moon Tower, Big J and Dan Soder came. That's when they first started the Bonfire, and they came, and I loved that shit from the get-go. So I came there and met them and just said what's up and introduced myself. And then the following year in 2017, I just hit up Dan and was like, yo, man, I know you're doing a live show. I'd love to paint a live painting if you're down with it. And he invited me on the show, and that was the first time I collaborated with comedians. So, but when the pandemic happened and everybody started coming here, one of the main places that I've done murals at and I've painted at so many times for shows was Vulcan Gas Company.
Right.
And Antones, when Kill Tony, Brian Redband and Tony Hinchcliffe started going there. A good friend of mine, John Dees, who's the keyboardist for Gary Clark Jr.
Oh yeah.
Was in their band. Yeah, he was in their band. So I heard about that, and I just hit up D's, and I was just like, "Yo, man, would you mind asking Tony if I could come out and just paint?" And he did, and Tony was cool with it, and Red Band was cool with it. So I just came out there and started, collaborating with those guys, and it's, built the momentum up with just like that, man.
And then you started to hang them in like Vulcan Gas Company and stuff like that, right? They're in there.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of the paintings I would do live, I'd sell right there on the spot. I'd say 95% of the business I get comes from people seeing me paint live, and people really appreciate seeing something go from a blank canvas to something resolved. And if it's a person or a movie or a musician that they really love, like they feel a part of that process, and it's like they bid over it, man. It's pretty awesome.
So at what point, I know like about a year ago, Tommy Godlove comes up with this idea, let's get a mural. They have the Brody Stevens bench and right there at the park, and he scouts it. We hear the story. He's looking for a perfect spot. It takes a long time. Then he finally gets the spot at the Greek restaurant. Amazing owner says, okay. The Starbucks gives it an okay because it's in the drive-through. Now they got to find a guy to paint the mural. And, there's a lot of murals in town. I will tell you this right now. There's about 3 Kobe's in my neighborhood, and they're fantastic. But I can't tell you who did them because all of a sudden it just seemed like one day they were just up. So how do they get a hold of you? How does this happen?
Well, it was 2021. I happened to run into Yoshi.
Oh, yeah.
He was collaborating with Sam Tripoli. They came out here and they were performing at the Romo Room. And I just came out there and said, what's up? And was just happened to be talking to Yoshi for like 15, 20 minutes. We had a great conversation and kept in touch. And, that's how it works, man. I'm telling you, just one person knows another person.
Oh, yeah.
I can't call it at all, man. You know exactly how it is. The real currency is people. And that was some good advice I got early on is, just do your best, bust your ass, be consistent, man, and fucking be good to people, man. Be good to people because those are your calling cards. You never know. You never know. And I've had so many instances just like that where it's like just a conversation I had with somebody and maybe that comes back around 6 months, maybe even 2 years later, but it's all just an interaction I had with somebody. So yeah, big up to Yoshi for, throwing my name in the bucket.
So then Tommy somehow is talking to Yoshi and he goes, I think I know a guy that can do it. He lives out in Austin. Tommy calls you and you guys talk for a while. Were you aware of who Brody Stevens was or?
I was. It was very similar to the timing with a man right behind me, Patrice O'Neill. Like I happened to find out about Patrice like in 2009, like right before he passed away. And it was a similar situation with Brody. I knew of him, but I started to get familiar with him, and then I heard he passed away, and it was like, damn, But just everybody that I've talked to, including yourself, like those are the people that I really appreciate. The people that leave a little bit of themselves with everybody that they meet. That's how my mom was, man. She gave herself to every single buddy. She made you feel like if she was talking to you right now, you feel like you're the only person in the room, man. She made everybody feel like that. And she just, you walk in the room and you feel better about who you are, where you are, whatever you're going through, man. And everybody I've talked to, that's very similar to how Brody was, this positive wave. So I appreciate him.
When Tommy calls you and you guys discuss, obviously, hey, let's try to do this. Let's get it. Do you start looking at photos? Does Tommy pick a photo that he feels or the family, to Brody's mom feel this is the one we feel represents him the best? And how did that process go?
Well, they already had a picture lined up, the one that I put up there. They knew that they wanted to put some of his sayings incorporate that into the composition. And I had a conversation with Tommy and Stephanie, his sister, and she's the one who kind of had the idea of maybe rays or some kind of light radiating from behind him. And, I just did my thing with it, sat down for a couple of nights and put some things together and presented it to them. And that's what they went with. So
So you did a sketch at first or a small painting and showed it to them.
Yeah, that's usually how it works with, custom paintings, custom murals, especially for people in their businesses and whatnot. I'll have an initial conversation with them about, what they want, how they want to feel, what they want to get from this mural before we even get into the details. And so that was the first conversation we had with them. And then from that conversation, I put together like at least 2 to 3 concepts, and then we can pick and choose from there and maybe splice some things together or just start all over. But I don't like to move forward until the client is excited about what I'm going to be doing. And both Tommy and Stephanie were very excited about it, so made it very easy for me to come out there and do my thing, man.
Now, once you come out, you said, I think you said it took about 10 days. So you come out to LA. You live in Austin. You're staying in a hotel, and do you buy all the paint and everything out here? Is there scaffolding? What's the whole setup of this?
Yeah, so I used a lift, an electrical lift that gets you up 2 stories. So that's the best way to do it. Scaffolding's good. It's a little bit cheaper, but it takes that much longer to do. So we had an electrical lift lined up, and I just waited till I got out here and went to Home Depot, got all the paints and materials. And I found an Airbnb that was like a mile away. So I just walked to the site every single day. And I worked mostly at night too, because that's how I beat the heat here in Texas, man. Painting in 100+ degree heat for 7-8 hours ain't happening. So I'm a night owl as it is. So, I usually get started like 5-6 o'clock at night and just go to like 12-1 o'clock, call it a night.
And what kind of lighting were you used? Did you have big spots or something?
I had a couple of spotlights. I perched one up on top of Starbucks and let it shine down on the mural. And I had one in the actual basket in the lift that was like, like one of those little snake headlights.
Yeah.
So
it's amazing how cool Starbucks was on this.
So cool.
Because they're like so corporate, you think of them as one corporate thing, but then you also forget about, how they offer benefits to people that aren't married. Like if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend or same-sex couples or any kind of thing, they offer them health care. They, they do a lot of stuff for communities, as much slack as they get. I think they're, from what I've seen, one of the better corporations. I don't know the deep inners of it, but I do know that Brody would go to Starbucks every day, and he loved going there and just being in there, entertaining people. And this thing could potentially easily, Starbucks could have said, absolutely not. We don't want a giant mural in our drive-through, because it's right there where you pay. And which is even more amazing to me, because I just think of Brody just looking down on each customer going, you got it, go with it. Just 818, just shouting out stuff at the drive-through. I mean, these guys, of course, the Greek restaurant donating the wall and the spirit and everything, once they heard about who Brody was amazing. But really, putting a light up on Starbucks and you're in their drive-through basically. Was the lift kind of out of the way, but people would be looking at you every night like, what are you painting?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Very similar to the, response that I get when I set up and just do live painting at shows, man. People were intrigued. They were like, what you doing? And I'd have people that came there on a regular. They'd be like, I've been watching you every single night and seeing it go up. Like, people really enjoy the process of art going up. And I think Tommy, telling a little bit about Brody and his story, that's his hometown. He used to go to that Greek restaurant, like that all added to it. So there's a lot of things working, man. Plus, the universe works, dude. You can't, sometimes it works out way more perfectly than I could have ever designed for myself. There is definitely some divine stuff going on, man. I even said before I got started on the first night, I talked to Brody and I just said, yo, man, help me paint this mural. Help me, just work through me. I want to affect as many people that love you in the best way. So just help me with this this project. And every single night it felt good being out there.
If you're painting and you mess up a little bit, you come back and you go, "Ooh, God, his eyeballs crooked or something." do you have like a paint thinner and you redo the eye or something?
Yeah, man, that's part of it. That's part of it. I mean, look, doing portraits are difficult for that reason. Like especially when it comes to the eyes, man, you got to nail the eyes. If you don't get the eyes, everything could be kind of off skewed a little bit. If you get the eyes, then you'll nail it. But there's definitely that pressure, man. And I've definitely had some nightmare experiences, like painting at weddings and the bride just being like, "That's me," and like, "Oh fuck."
Oh,
It's like, yeah.
Get him out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
Put a mustache on the bride.
Oh yeah, I've bombed. I've bombed for sure.
Yeah.
But I sketch it out. Like I rehearse his face, and anytime I'm doing a portrait of somebody that's passed, I like to if I can, talk to a loved one. I had a good conversation with his sister, a long conversation, and everybody that I've talked to, Tommy. So that helps connect me to the piece. When there's an emotional component to it, the portraits always come out better.
Once you get it pretty much done, so it's about 10 days, you do the Brody mural, and then to the left is a Coca-Cola type logo that says Brody Enjoy It, which is one of our favorite shirts and one of his favorite sayings. It was awesome. Just enjoy it. And then at what point does Stephanie and does his mom come? Oh, wait. I don't think his mom seen it until you unveiled it, because she was sitting next to me. And I remember exactly what she said. She looked right at me and said, "It looks just like him." And I was just like, oh man, it was beautiful. But does she come down, Stephanie and Tommy, and do they come look at it and we're like, "This is great," or what's happening there?
Yeah, I mean, Tommy would, drop me a line occasionally just to ask me how it's going, but he wasn't looking to get updates or anything like that. And Stephanie lives in close proximity, so she would drive by and, call Tommy and tell him how much he's loving the process, so that definitely helps when you have the clients that are excited about how it's going even before it's done. So.
Oh yeah. And then, so you get the painting up and then you put some kind of sealer on it. You were telling me, right?
Yeah. There's some good sealers out that protect against the UV, because the clear coats before, they would like protect against the UV, but they would turn like this yellow.
Oh yeah.
Turn everything kind of yellow. So this doesn't yellow, and if somebody's so bold to graffiti over it, it'll come off with soap and water. So it's like
that's amazing.
Nice, clear. Yeah. It's some good stuff, and I put like 5 or 6 solid coats on there. I was working till like 6:30 in the morning, the day of the unveiling, putting the clear coats on.
Whoa.
Yeah, dude.
Wow.
I was running on fumes at the unveiling, dude.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you this. So I got there, I think it was like 10:30 in the morning, and a big blue tarp up, and we're all there. A lot of Brody's closest friends and his family. His mom's there and his sister's there, and his manager, Dave Raff's there. We all know Brody. We know Brody inside and out, from being with him for years. So my thing inside me is like, oh God, this thing, the tarp's going to come down. I hope it's good, It's like, what if it came down and it was just bad? You know what I mean? The whole parking lot would have been silent. It would have been like, oh, fuck. So we do the 5-4, we do the Brody countdown, the BRODY, and then bring it down. It drops down. And I remember, this feeling inside of like, I was just, I was just about to I was tearing up, like, and I could hear Dave behind me. He was crying, and people were just floored how beautiful it was. And it was like Brody was alive again. He was right there. His sayings, his eyes, that beard, the hat, and it was like, damn, That is Brody right there. And it was beautiful, man. So I want to give you a big love and shout out on how great of a job you did on this, man.
Thank you, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate it, dude. And yeah, trust me. Well, I talked about my mother on the day of the unveiling for a reason, man. Like that shit nearly cracked me in half. I'm not even kidding. When she passed, and so it does my heart. So I feel so close to her every time I'm able to paint for somebody that's lost somebody, because I understand exactly how that feels to miss somebody you love so much, and you just want to see their face and hear them and smell them and hug them, and even if it's for 30 seconds, man, you just want it so bad. Like, I understand that feeling. And so every moment that I was painting that mural, I was channeling my mother and just how much I love her, and thinking about you guys and all his friends and family that were going to be there. And I just wanted to, do my best. And, that's where my recovery comes in, is helping me just stay in that mode, that frame right there. Is just, hey, man, I'm not getting caught up in results and expectations. Let me just show up and do my best and put as much love into this thing, and leave the rest to, what's up there.
Well, you killed it, man. What are you doing now? You just still doing just every day you wake up and you go do live paintings or murals and everything? And also, how can people get a hold of you to get some murals done?
You can hit me up on IG. That's probably the best way, at Chris Rogers Art. Or you can go to my website, www.chrisrogersartist.com. It's a good way to get in touch with me. And right now, I am designing a mural series for Tom and Christina at their new studio down here at YMH. They got 3 big walls that I'm putting together some ideas for, and it's going to be wild. So
Wow.
I'm very excited about that. And we're still very early on I just did like the first round of concepts and submitted them, and got some notes back on that. And so I'm about to go into round 2 of drafting up more concepts. But I'm really excited about that, and got some other mural projects. I'm doing one of Toby Nrigwe, a hip hop artist out of Houston, Texas. I'm doing a mural dedicated to him right now. And this past Monday, every Monday, pretty much I'm hanging out with those dudes at Kill Tony. So still doing live art, doing all kinds of stuff, man, but pretty much painting all the time, man. It took years to get to this point, to get busy, man. So trust me, I'm in a place right now where I'm super grateful for what I got going on, man. It's been a long time coming, so I really appreciate it.
Very cool, man. I'll be out in Austin with Marcus King and Neil Francis. We're playing Stubbs. We're going to do, it's a rock and roll comedy tour, and that's coming up. I'll tell you, and you should come down as my guest and have some barbecue and watch some rock and roll, man, and comedy.
I'm down.
All right.
I'm down. What's the date?
I'll tell you right now, it is October 4th, Stubbs Barbecue. We're playing that big venue in the back there, and come down and hang out, man.
You got it, man. Hey, if you want me to paint a portrait of you live, dude, I'll do it.
I wouldn't mind that, but actually I'd rather just have you come down and enjoy the evening, man, and have some barbecue and just and take a night off and have fun with us,
I like it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Done. Say no more, man. It'd be an honor, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, thank you so much for doing this Brody mural, and shout out to Tommy Godlove and Yoshi for making this connection, and also for Vulcan Gas Company for letting you go in there and paint during the Kill Tony show. And I think there's a couple of your murals in there or paintings in there, right? And very cool. And looking forward to seeing it again. And like I said, you killed it. Do you know the address of it, just to let people know if they want to go? I know it's in Reseda.
Yeah, it's at the intersection of Victory and Reseda, on the side of, Firehouse Taverna. That's the name of the Greek restaurant. And it's right next to the Starbucks.
Yeah.
So you can't miss it. It's huge. It's right there, man.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. Everybody, if you go see it, make sure you take a photo with Brody, hashtag it Brody, enjoy it, and tag tag my man here into the into it, you know, Chris Rogers Art, and that's CHRIS. And you know, follow him on Instagram. Great guest and great painter, and you killed it, man. Thank you so much for doing the show.
Dean, you're the man, man. I love you, buddy. Thank you.
Yeah, I will see you soon, man.
Right on, brother.
Thank
Peace.
you, man. See you.
Thank you.
Later, man.